Welcome to Around the Rinks, your go-to hockey podcast.
We are back. Another episode Around the Rinks. I'm Noah. We got the full crew. Brendan, Kylee, Liam, and Reece. Look at us. There's 5 of us. What is going on?
It's not like it's
Kylie's
the middle
back
of
from the
summer.
cartel.
Yeah, Kylie's back. Thank God. We don't need her.
We
Trade her away.
finally defeated the cartel.
Narrowly made it out. I loved the little shout out last episode. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
That was a long episode, guys. So a round of applause.
That was. I'm still getting over it, honestly.
I wasn't expecting when I sat down. I was like, 2.5 hours. Like, oh my God.
No, when I saw that pop
crazy.
up, I was like, that's crazy.
Then staying up another hour just to upload it and whatnot. That was just so fun.
Tonight will not be 2.5 hours.
Tonight will not be 2.5 hours.
A little bit different because we're in the middle of summer now. If you look outside, it's like 35 degrees. So, the hockey news has slowed down, but there's still lots to talk about. So we're gonna get into things. Noah, I'll let you kind of explain what the episode is going to be about.
Yeah, I mean, free agents. We had a 2.5 hour episode of free agency. There's still more to talk about. We didn't even talk about who's the winners or who's the losers of free agency, which is kind of crazy. We just went through every single team. So if you haven't seen last episode and want to know what happened during free agency, go look over there because that was 2.5 hours of
every single deal
chaos.
That ever happened was talked about.
Us going like, okay, that was pretty good. But yeah, winners, losers. I'm not sure how we want to start this. I'm not sure if go in order here. But
I have a loser.
You got a loser? You want to start with losers?
The Buffalo Sabres.
Buffalo Sabres.
They lost. They lost bad.
Who do you think your winner is then?
I'm sorry?
Who's your winner then?
Well, with that's a layup right to the Oilers, no?
I mean,
a great start.
If I'm saying the Buffalo Sabres are losers, then I'm going to say, of course, the Edmonton Oilers were winners. The trade that I'm kind of mentioning, of course, is Ryan McLeod heading to buttfuck nowhere Buffalo. Coming back, we got a young talent in Matt Savoy. So, exciting. I think the Oilers fan base did not see that one coming.
No, not at all. I don't think anybody see this coming. It's just kind of just out of the blue trade, and I don't understand why Buffalo did it. I guess they're trying to just get some more NHL, actual NHL talent on their team and just kind of hopefully trying to make the playoffs. I don't think Ryan McLeod doesn't really push them over the edge, but it helps. But trading a prospect like Savoy that's tough.
So do you want to explain Savoy a little bit? Maybe someone who's not as familiar with him?
This guy is pure offense. I've seen him play a couple times here in Edmonton when he was with the Winnipeg Ice. But pure offense. He's great on special teams. He can play power play. He can kind of play penalty kill. If he's going to be a second line forward. I think he's projected to be a perfect second line forward. He's got a great shot on him. He doesn't have McLeod's speed at all. Comparing it to McLeod, it's pretty night and day, but because that guy's pretty fast. But yeah, he's just a pure gifted player. He's got a great pass, great passing ability, great shot, just pure offensive wrecking ball, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think he pretty much comes in and immediately becomes Edmonton's number one prospect, right? And he's also a guy who, on all of these junior teams he's played on, he's moved around a lot because went to Winnipeg, they moved teams, they relocated. And then ended up getting traded at the deadline this year to Moose Jaw. So he's been on 3 teams. He was on 5 all season last year, if you include Rochester, and one simple game in Buffalo. But he's been on deep runs with all of these WHL teams he's been on. And I think that comes in really well when you've got a guy who's used to playing these championship games. Obviously, it's a step down, but it's still the same kind of compete level and want to win, right? So I think he could honestly make a serious effort to play on that third line. Maybe not full year, maybe get a tester at the beginning of the year, but wouldn't be shocked for sure if we see him for a bit next season.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
agree.
question in terms of, do you see him actually playing minutes for that Edmonton Oilers team, or do you see him being sent down to Bakersfield or something like that?
I don't see why not.
I think that's a head scratcher in a sense,
Mhm.
right? Like, I agree with both you and Reece there, but it's not really a guy that's going to help you win now. For a team that just went to the Cup final, it's kind of weird to see a guy go out the door that is going to be an everyday NHLer to trade for a guy that we kind of project to see 2 years down the road. But, cap troubles is one thing. And with, Skinner and Arvidsson on short deals, just for example, they need players to come and fill those boots in a couple seasons. And this kid is going to do that perfectly, right? You have Holloway project to hopefully play some top 6 minutes. This kid beside him, like, not only you're winning now, you're winning for the future, and it's pretty cool. And hopefully we get to see a little bit of a taste sometime to just get everybody excited.
I think that was kind of the thinking behind Buffalo's side of things in terms of, we need to do something today, not I don't care about tomorrow as much. Today has to start happening. So Buffalo, yeah, Ryan McLeod, is he going to light the league up? Probably not. I mean, maybe gets 20 goals next season, and that's a great year for him, kind of thing. Maybe. But, I mean, yeah, in terms of what is he going to bring to Buffalo? A little bit. But that's a team that is desperate for a playoff game, so they're throwing whatever eggs into their basket at the moment.
Yeah, and he didn't really fit into this forward group at this point anymore, right? Like, you look at the bottom six, they don't really have a spot for a burner that isn't gonna. Yeah, he transports the puck fine, but is he really making big deal plays? Like, it just kind of seemed like he was on the way out, especially with that cap hit and expiring at the end of the year.
I think Oilers fans thought there was something more there behind Ryan McLeod. Like, when you saw his physical abilities and how fast he was, you said, "Oh, this guy could be something," but it just never came to fruition.
And maybe he'll find it in Buffalo and getting top 6 minutes there, right?
Yeah, and like, for a guy who we talk about him, like, he's been through 3 long, fairly deep playoff runs in the last 3 years. Hasn't really excelled that much, but he's also been he's 23 years old, and he hasn't gotten any power play time in any of his years in Edmonton. Like, this is a guy who still, like, can completely change his game and become a legitimate top 6 player. Like, I had always bought stock on Ryan McLeod in Edmonton, and I honestly, like, I think he'll get a pretty great opportunity in Buffalo if they're willing to change up that first power play. I think if he could squeeze on there somewhere, like, he's a very skilled player. I think a change of scenery kind of gives him a little more confidence. And for Buffalo to make this trade too, like, Savoy was kind of sitting in, like, the 5th spot in, like, their prospect pool at that point. Like, they've picked high in the draft the last few years, especially adding that Henelinas guy, I think, this season or this past draft. He kind of dropped down, I think, deeper than they were willing to spend all this time on him. So I think a huge W for the Oilers is to not have to give up Xavier Bourgault in this deal. Like, a guy who they picked, I think, 22nd overall. Like, he had a pretty down year this season in the AHL. And I mean, obviously his stock would have been as low as possible, but to move on from Tyler Tullio, like, not a huge deal, but to save that first round and not have to trade it, like, to have this go McLeod and Tullio straight across for a 9th overall pick who still has tons of potential and is so psyched to play in Edmonton, I think is a huge deal.
Yeah, hometown kid too.
I was gonna say, another huge talking point for him is that he is a local kid from St. Albert, so that's always great to see when these people come to Edmonton. Like, we talked last episode about how the Oilers are starting to attract these talents we're coming to play for this team that, McDavid, the chance of winning a Stanley Cup, the best arena in hockey, kind of thing. But now we're talking about a kid who wants to play here because he's a fan of the Edmonton Oilers and he grew up wanting to be an Edmonton Oiler. So he's going to have a little bit more fire in his belly, kind of thing, to really become that dream in a sense of words.
And I think
go ahead, Reece. Go ahead. Fire away, buddy.
You go ahead. Okay.
No, mine. I kind of get off topic. You go nuts.
Okay, fine. I think now I just lost it. Sorry, dude.
Just the nice guy off to the point we forget. But mine is actually sitting over, well, for me, it's your right shoulder. But that Taylor Hall jersey just makes me think of him for Adam Larson. Kind of same, not near as much of a blockbuster, but out of the blue in the middle of summer, where you just did not see it coming. And the loss that I think most, if not all, Oiler fans felt. Like, what are we doing trading the face of our franchise pretty well for a defenseman we've never heard of? Now you're going, and it's the exact opposite feeling. It's so cool to be on the winning side of a deal, and who knows, right? Like 3 years down the road, Savoy might not turn out, right? Like that's kind of the risk of dealing for prospects, but just the way it feels right now, it's pretty cool. You're flying high as an Oiler fan right now.
But he's coming in, and he's gonna do training camp with the regular, the starting team kind of thing. So what a team to learn off of. I mean, we're talking about the talents Edmonton has at the moment. This kid's going to come in and say, you have to be at this level. If you want to play for this team, this is the standard you have to be at. And that's going to push you and motivate you to improve your own personal game.
I think the biggest question mark with Savoy is his injury that he had this season. I think I'm just like looking right here. He only played 30 so games this whole season, and he did absolutely light it up. Don't get me wrong, but I think that may be in some question marks on the Buffalo Sabres side. I mean, their prospect pool is just full of forwards. This could also be a great opportunity for Edmonton even to flip him at the trade deadline. Like this could be a piece that a rebuilding team would love to give up, and then you bring in another veteran on the Oilers squad. So not necessarily saying he's going to play a game in here in Edmonton. Who knows?
So overall, there's a clear winner and a clear loser in this deal.
In a way, yeah.
So let's. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about this deal, we can. Yes,
there it is.
Go ahead.
I remember now. I do think that part of this kind of plays into like when you move down the line, maybe when like Draisaitl eventually, whenever that ends up happening, and McDavid resign. This is another piece that you can go and say, hey, we're not giving up everything for right now. We're still getting pieces for the future and grabbing guys that can make a real impact in the NHL years and years and years, so on. Like, we're not just sticking to this 3-year window and then saying, oh, screw it. Like, they got weapons now to come up and through the pipeline and actually make an impact.
Yeah, there's no dead end in sight, which is nice to see.
If
I have the same exact pick.
If there's anything else in terms of winning or losing, we can talk about that deal. But if we can move on to our next one if you want.
Well, I was going to say, like, I do have the same pick because I didn't see, like, I wasn't there, obviously, but I did see that there was a clear winner with the Edmonton versus Buffalo Sabres. I think we absolutely stripped them. And I think it's nice to see that, you know, I might potentially want to go to a preseason game and hope that Savoy's on that lineup so I can see him in action because he absolutely lit up the CHL. And I mean, preseason tickets are pretty nice because it's way cheaper and you get to see a lot of people you might not see on the ice. Like, that was the first time I ever saw Pickard. And then, you know, Pickard ended up doing pretty well for us. So, I don't know. I'm excited for this upcoming season because Edmonton absolutely cooked for Buffalo. Does anybody else have a different winner and loser?
Sorry.
I'll give you a winner. I really like what Chicago did. They finally surrounded Bedard with, like, a decent amount of help. And that is so exciting for a kid that is just gonna take the league even more by storm every game, man. It's incredible. But the team that I really want to talk about, I'm sorry if I'm stealing somebody's, but is Utah. I think I mentioned it last podcast, but the fact that a new owner comes in, they draft a Gillis son, get that storyline going, and then make a bunch of moves. It's a team that wants to compete and to win, and it's the first time in a long time that franchise is doing that, and it's very, very refreshing to see. As far as losers, I'm going to give an honorable mention to the Ducks. I can't say they got much worse, but they sure shit didn't get better. Didn't make any moves at all. But I think, and this this might be a little bit biased too, but I honestly think my big loser is Vancouver. I think watching what left and what they brought in, like they filled some holes, but they put band-aids on gunshot wounds, right? Like they did not replace what they had. They very well could still be a competitive team. They have a lot of young talent, a lot of high skill players, a very, very good core, but I think their supporting pieces only got worse.
I agree. I think adding Danton Heinen to your top 6 is not a Stanley Cup recipe, in my opinion. And Lindholm is a tough hole to fill. Like they came out of the gun super hot when they got him. Like it's not like he was stunning by any means, but he does all the little stuff. And I think like there's been a lot of teams that were interested in him. Boston has wanted him forever. So I think he was basically offered a contract to stay and didn't want to, and I think they have definitely gotten a lot worse too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that Utah pick for the winner.
Thank you.
I didn't really think about that, but I mean, just this season, they made it a competitive hockey team.
Yeah,
and
over a couple nights.
I think, I was saying it right up to the trade deadline last season, and then they just fell off. But they showed. I think I wrote an article about it.
You can't plug yourself that much, my guy. Come on.
I know.
Follow fucking Noah Pomeroy, okay?
Honestly, this Utah, I keep stuttering when I say Utah because I'm so used to saying the Coyotes are a team name, like hockey club.
Utah Hockey Club.
But I wouldn't be surprised they make it to the playoffs. And it's gonna be a tough race this year. The Central's gross now. The whole West is gross. But I gotta agree with you. A winner for me, it's hard to say. I like what Washington's done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's what they had to do.
We talked about that last episode. We talked about how they made good moves on deadline day.
And it's not necessarily good moves. It's just it's changing enough. There's a lot of risk. There's so much, extremely in the Dubois deal. There's a lot of risk to that. I like Andrew Mangiapane. That was a great pickup. Chikrin, that was an amazing pickup for cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And then Matt Roy, I'm a big fan of his game. Their top 4 is looking sick this year. And they're doing it all for Ovi. If it was any other team, this wouldn't be happening right now. They'd be going right into a rebuild, but they're standing their ground. They somehow squeaked into the playoffs this year, and they're looking a lot better on paper. And for a loser, I'm gonna flip it over to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kind of the same situation, and they did absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Sidney Crosby.
It is tough to see how Washington's building up this team to try to go on another run for Ovechkin, and Sidney Crosby's Penguins are not looking too good. And I don't even know. They brought in Grzelcyk. That's all I can think of on the top of my head. They lost Riley Smith. That didn't work out.
Bavolier.
That was a good pickup. I like that.
Maybe a top 6, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't push the needle by any means.
But now you're stuck in the situation of I'm imagining what those negotiation rooms of the Crosby extension's looking at, because Crosby's looking over at his longtime rival and seeing how they're building a team around him, and you're stuck here with the same core you've had for the last since you won the cup pretty much, and it hasn't really worked out.
Do you think Sidney Crosby has a bit of a different feeling inside of him compared to Ovechkin, where Ovechkin played most of his career before he won that Stanley Cup, and he had to keep pushing. Or Sidney Crosby, he's won his cups already. He's had that kind of little dynasty kind of thing. Do you think he sits there and goes, whatever happens now is bonus kind of thing? I've had my moment of glory. Yeah. This is bonus. Whereas Ovechkin goes, no, I still have to prove something. I want to win more than one Stanley Cup. I want to say that I was better than every other player that just won one. I've won multiple. Do you think that's a little bit of a factor?
I agree. That's probably how Crosby's thinking. I no doubt in my mind he doesn't not want to be a Penguin, but you got to do better. As the management's you have Sidney Crosby on your team. Yeah. He has this legacy that's going to be with your team forever. And just riding this sail that's not going anywhere. it's tough to see from the outside.
Slightly off topic. Did anybody see Sidney Crosby talk to the Canadian soccer team?
Yes.
His legs? Oh my
Yeah.
god, that man's got tree trunks
Godzilla,
down
dude.
there. Woo.
Yeah.
Good for you, Sidney. Good for you. Anyways,
That's how you know he's a hockey player.
Yeah, good for him.
But
I would have to say. Oh, sorry, Noah.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
For my winners, I think it's got to be Nashville. Just adding so much to that core that was already there. Like they've kind of committed to this like win now sort of thing with Yossi and Saros re-upping, and like adding a Conn Smythe winner in March. So I think is huge. Like for 5.5 is insane to me. And then you add a pissed off Steven Stamkos. Like I would be really excited to see him like go off next year. I think that would be sick. But I mean, you add those guys to a core of, and Shea as well. I mean, that's a bit of an overpay, and length was intense. But I think like adding that core, that's a pretty solid team going up next year. Like they're legit contenders now, in my opinion. And you've got Evangelista, who's a young, and Tomasino, who's also young. Like they've got some guys coming up, Kemmel. But I think they've put themselves in a really good spot for the next 3 or 4 years. But for the loser, I think they kind of made similar signings to Nashville, honestly. But Seattle, like I think their window is a lot bigger. Like you've got a young Matty Beniers, young Shane Wright. You've got these guys that like are still young and carving out the league a little bit, and then you add Cody Stevenson for 7 years, I think, or 6 years. And like he's not a super young guy. And then you also go and add Montour, who's like amazing, like Stanley Cup champion, sick. But he's already 30 years old. That deal's gonna go a long time. And I think that those two deals eventually are gonna really like catch up to them when they're trying to actually compete and win a Stanley Cup with the Beniers and Wright like era. So those are my two. They both like got better this year, but I think that both teams are probably going to look at this free agency and be like, oh, these were a little bit much.
That Boston gives me the same type of vibe. And I know I just talked about Vancouver losing these two guys, but with some length and a lot of money going their way, I'm going to be interested to see how those pan out in the next, 6 years.
And, Zadorov also, he was paid like a number one defenseman by Chicago, I think. And it like went like bad. Like, I don't think he lived up the expectations. And so I'd be interested to see. I don't think he can carry on that same playoff like ability that he had this year for sure.
I don't know. I feel like Zadorov is almost like the perfect fit in Boston. Just the way they play. I'm sure he's going to be fine. I also like the Lindholm deal. I feel like he's also just the perfect fit for Boston.
Well, they needed a center in the worst way possible. Like that dude fills the biggest hole in all of hockey.
True.
Hopefully that shuts up everybody trying to say Draisaitl's going there too.
No, it won't.
Well, I mean, I was gonna move on to. We are, of course, still waiting on news for the Draisaitl deal. I mean, I think the consensus among Oilers fans is going to happen. It's just waiting for the official news of we have a new GM in place. This is his first deal kind of thing. So whenever that gets resolved behind the scenes, the Draisaitl deal will get resolved.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that obviously like Draisaitl's agent came out and said it's looking good for Edmonton. We're just working. I think they're really deep diving into like how much money do we want to spend on Draisaitl?
Well,
I think it's really just about money right now, not about where he's going. But I'm also not keeping my hopes up because it's a little bit scary still, right? Like it's never going to be 100% for sure until we hear about it. So keeping my heart guarded, but hopefully it's just talking money right now.
Because I think last episode we talked about how Draisaitl will probably be getting paid the same, if not more, than McDavid is. So then that's going to have to restructure the entire Oilers pay system in terms of how much does McDavid get on his next deal? Because it's going to be probably a record-setting amount for an NHL player per season kind of thing. So there's going to be a lot of money flying around Edmonton this next little bit here. But, But I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl deserve those contracts. We've seen what they've done for years now. So yeah, Draisaitl's deal, it will happen this summer. It's a matter of time. I mean, they're off at McDavid's wedding right now. The boys are having a good time. Okay, let them.
Yeah,
let them live.
let August long pass, and then let's wait and see, kind of thing, right? Like
Oilers,
let's enjoy our summers too, kind of thing.
And like you said, then Draisaitl will figure himself out.
Yeah, and like you said, just waiting for a new GM.
Yeah,
that's the big one. Even though Jeff Jackson's been making money moves,
cooking. But yeah, I mean, you're coming into the NHL, or you're coming to the Oilers group as the new GM. What a perfect opportunity to announce yourself to that team. Going, deal's done. There you go. I got your boys signed up for another 10 years, kind of thing, right? So yeah, that'll be a
and your boy's gonna get handed a contract with a couple blanks on it, right? One to sign, one for years, one for money. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're an Oiler for life, kind of thing. If it's a 4-year deal, great. We'll sign you another 4 years. Like it, I don't think they don't find a way to just make it work. However, it pans out.
If the player wants to stay on that team, they'll make it happen. I mean, you don't put up numbers like that and then not get dealt a new deal.
And I mean, a lot of people have wanted to stay on this team. We've seen multiple people take lower offers to be with the Oilers, like Henrique. And just a lot of people, like Henrique was having trouble even being on the team in the beginning just because of like his family and travel and stuff. And then seeing him take a lower offer to stay, it just shows a lot of faith in our next year and just how our team is playing together right now. So I'm so excited, and I think Draisaitl will sign. It's just a matter of working out money, and I think they're really taking their time with this Draisaitl contract because it will affect McDavid's contract in the future, and I think Edmonton's kind of preparing to spend a lot of money, like Liam's saying. So we'll see next coming years. Yeah,
I would not be surprised if Draisaitl's the most paid player.
Oh yeah,
for 1 year.
Are we thinking?
Yeah, for 1 year,
right?
For 1 year.
Are we thinking north of $13.5 million?
No.
I'm pretty prepared for 14.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hope not.
Because
I think he deserves it.
Yeah,
he's deserving. Right, do I want our cap to cry a little? Oh man, it's already crying.
After that,
because if Draisaitl's making that, what's McDavid gonna make? He's gonna make
15
more.
15. Comfortably 15. It's a today
and then Boosh for 10.
Exactly.
How are you?
Exactly. It's a today issue in terms of getting.
And then we got to talk about Nurse. God.
Who knows how that's gonna end up?
But the cap's gonna skyrocket. It'll be fine.
It's an issue for today in terms of getting the Draisaitl deal done, but then it's an issue for way down the line in terms of McDavid's going to ask for a paycheck. We're going to keep salary cap in mind. We're going to have to let people go to keep the big names happy. But that's sport. That's the world we live in. It's there's going to be winners and losers even on the team itself. So you got to sacrifice a few in terms to keep those big names.
Do you guys think it's going to be the full 8 years as well, or is it going to be more like Austin Matthews signing the 4-year?
That's a great question. I almost lean a little shorter. I'm going to be honest.
If I'm Draisaitl, I'm going for the 4 because I know McDavid's going to re-sign. Why can't I go after the 4 and get the same as what he's making then?
And the cap's only going to go up.
We're making money moves out here, okay? Groceries are expensive, okay? Draisaitl needs to afford bagels, okay? Let the man eat a bagel. He needs 4.
I'm sure he has enough money.
It's definitely the smart move to go shorter term contract right now because hockey is evolving so fast right now. The caps are going higher. People want to be paid more. I think it's going to be like a race in salary. Like who's contracting in faster so I can get paid more kind of thing. I think we're going to see a lot of that soon.
Which is kind of what Matthews is doing. Just waiting for that cap to go all the way up and make $20 million a year.
I also could see them kind of like I do think it's gonna be a shorter term contract. Like I don't think it'll go the full 8, but I do kind of think that they're probably gonna be like, I honestly would rather just not have to go through this whole ordeal like any sooner than I have to. So let's just go with 6 and like whatever.
Yeah,
And
true.
if you're one of the big German car brands out there, do something smart. Get Draisaitl as your face of North American sales. Pump that all day, every day. Get the man paid over on that side of things as well, okay? I'll be in charge of your Draisaitl. Call me up. I'll be your agent. We'll figure it out, okay? I got some contacts.
I think definitely for Draisaitl, like he deserves to get quite the raise. Like he's making 8.5 right now, and he has for the last 8 years, right? And but do you guys think that maybe McDavid takes a little bit less than people would expect?
I was gonna say that. I thought you guys were gonna chew me alive for that. I think he might be very humble king and take a little bit less so his team can benefit from that.
Because I do think there's also like there's nowhere that you can put Connor McDavid and say like, yeah, he's paid fairly, because literally however much money he could possibly be making is probably still not enough.
Let me ask you this question then. Is there a team in this league who could pay him what you think he deserves and has that capability right now? That is a cup contending team, has the money for him?
Maybe not.
I don't think so. Like, I think anybody would make the room and pay, but you can only make a certain percentage of the cap as an NHL player, right? Like, you can't go over that 15, 16, 20, whatever it is, right? So I think you kind of hooped in that way, and that's where the short-term deal comes in. But kind of like what you said, Reece, and even Kylee, you know, my hopes and prayers are somewhere in that wedding speech is we're both going to take less money. And we're gonna just win cup after cup after cup after cup. And I think there's too much ego in sports for that to actually be the case, right? Like, if I'm the best player in the world, I want to be compensated for it, and I would love for it to be in Edmonton. But at the end of the day, figure it out, right? I'm making my money.
Trust
me,
I
hope they're good guys at heart.
I think if you look at Austin Matthews and you go, this guy's getting paid more than me, fuck that. I'm better than him.
Yeah,
you know, I'm better
exactly.
than him. So why am I not getting paid more? And that's where I go. Like, there's only a handful of teams that are cup contenders in terms of, you know, we can like see them winning a Stanley Cup within the next 5 years kind of thing. So out of those teams, you know, you go, where could they afford a talent like McDavid or Draisaitl? And there's not many. There are not many places that he could. For McDavid, I always say I think he would sell so well in that Toronto market, but you know, I would hate to see that, but he would work so well in a Maple Leaf jersey.
He would have to go to a team where they could start building around him again. So
but he wouldn't.
I mean,
it doesn't.
Any team he goes to, it's an instant.
I'm saying he wouldn't because of that. Because there's no possible way he would go to a team that already has that foundation. They can't afford him.
If he had already won 1 or 2 Stanley Cups, fine. I'll go do another rebuild all day, every day. He hasn't won one yet. He's desperate.
Yeah.
He's still hungry.
They're going plug and play.
Yeah, it's I need to win tomorrow.
Yeah,
I do think it is not going to be long until there is guys like, maybe not at McDavid and Draisaitl's level, but that all of a sudden they start seeing San Jose as like a very attractive place to play with Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. You got 6 years, Tyler Foley. Like, this is, I think there's going to be a lot of enjoyment playing in that kind of heat, and like not like a crazy, the fan base is good there, but obviously you can walk around San Jose and it's not going to be like, oh my gosh, you're Macklin Celebrini. Like, like Edmonton.
Even Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago definitely. I mean, original 6 team. That Chicago fan base is good as well. So, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot of talk over the next couple seasons of big names moving.
Yeah, I don't think like seeing a hockey player walk doesn't really like, or a big superstar like that, McDavid or Draisaitl, doesn't really happen too much. Like, we're talking about Steven Stamkos like getting traded off. That wasn't on his part at all, though.
And look at how well it's worked out for John Harris, who is pretty well.
And that was the last big one.
But it has totally come back to shoot that organization and himself like in the foot.
I'll toss this out there. I know way before any of our times, but when the Gretzky deal went for him to go to LA, without Gretzky going to the Los Angeles Kings, that franchise is not what it is today.
Hockey in America.
Yeah,
period.
exactly. He puts that entire state on a map in terms of hockey. So if you are, let's use San Jose as an example, a franchise in a big state that has lots of population that just hasn't really got going right now, or it's struggling at the moment, you bring in a big name, you're on fire again. You know, you had your Jumbo Joe days, you had your Marlowe days. Now let's get in the new generation now.
Yeah, and a team like that where you don't have a diehard fan base like Edmonton or, you know, throughout Canada, you have, like, there's so much more pressure, I would feel, to stay relevant and to stay competitive, because your fans will disappear like that, right? Like there's so many other options. Like when Zadorov said, like, what else are they gonna do except watch hockey, kind of thing. Like, as much as it sucks, there's an element of truth there, right? Like San Jose, you got San Francisco down the road. No, like, you can go anywhere. You can do whatever you want. I need to watch hockey. There's a beach right there. Kidding me?
We can continue on this topic but I'm going to use that as a great segment point, because what is there to do in Edmonton other than watch hockey? Well, even when it's plus 35 outside in the middle of July, people are going to a shopping mall to watch hockey. So we can talk about, if you had more to talk about in terms of McDavid and Draisaitl and all that, we can. But we do want to talk a little bit about the Brick Invitational Tournament, because in terms of hockey history, that is a weirdly star-studded event.
Yeah. Honestly, I remember just like being little and like walking around and just seeing this giant tournament going on at West Ed, and just like, what is this? And all the superstars, every superstar you can think of in the NHL, some of them played in the Brick Tournament, and it's a fun tournament, honestly, and fans are coming out. The Junior Red Wings just won it, so congrats to them. Seeing Octopus getting thrown on the ice, that was pretty fun.
That was cool.
We're in a shopping
all those
mall.
Detroit guys are coming.
Like, we're
in a shopping mall.
In a mall.
It's like the Whalers.
A game, and there's a store 20 feet away from the ice. Like, it's a weird situation, weird setup, but it's so perfectly Canadian in a sense. Like, all this is going on, this is still the focus, right?
Yeah. I saw this kid like absolutely rip it in net doing a toe drag. Just this little kid. I'm just like, are you kidding me? And you can see some of these kids that you're watching now are just going to be so huge in the NHL in a decade. Like, it's going to be insane.
I mean, I remember seeing all the clips of like Connor Bedard when he was at the Brick Tournament, and just it doesn't stop. I mean, I think Stamkos was there.
Yeah, like that Bedard stuff was in 2015. Like, he's like that little in 2015, and now he's like about to dominate the NHL. Like, seeing these guys at this level is like insane. I saw a video of like 11-year-old Austin Matthews scoring on 11-year-old Aiden Hill. Like, it's insane. Like, the players that end up coming out of this, it's pretty insane to see like the percentage that they actually hit on for like the skilled players to get out of this. Like, when you look at a lot of these tournaments and stuff, like when you're 11 years old, like, you might be good at hockey, but in 4 years you might figure out like, oh, girls are cool too. So like, some of these guys, like, it's crazy how many impact players have actually been in this tournament.
And
just
the list is crazy.
Like, how much skill is coming into the game, and it shows right at this tournament, right? Not that kids always haven't been amazing, and for the hockey that I've watched of, you know, children, my brothers, cousins, whatever, like, it is not this tournament, right? But like Kylee said, toe drags, Michigans, like, it's just crazy what these kids are able to do at such a young age. It blows my mind every year.
They're half our age and less.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous what kids are doing nowadays. I do have to plug my phone in, so I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
I was at my phone. Just came in.
Totally different. Like, when I started playing hockey, like, I don't think there was ever a level little kids like my age at that time that were ever that good as I've seen some of these kids in these videos. Like, I honestly think like in the last few years we've found like a whole new like era hockey has moved into, with like none of the like hooking and stuff, and like that all really changed like pretty not that long ago. Like, I think we're really entering into like a advanced era of hockey. Like when all of a sudden, like basketball players figured out that you can like put the balls through your legs and like actually dribble and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I think we're really starting to see hockey just like continue to just go exponentially up in like every aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
it's such a
it's-
skillful game now.
the sports
It shows like
science.
there's no goons in the league anymore, right? Every team 10 years ago would have had 3-4 guys that would pound the wheels off of any human being ever. Now,
Go
ahead.
ahead. Did you guys see that Matt Rempe and George Larocque are
Yes.
training together?
yeah. Well, did you see that Matt Repe was teaching a boxing class how to fight on
Yep,
ice?
on ice.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah,
but, like-
it seemed like they were all oddly good at skating.
Right?
You put me on
Yeah,
skates,
skating's
I
hard.
die.
Sorry, Brendan, I cut you off there.
I'm just saying,
No more
Matt
goons.
Rempe's of the world, those weren't so few and far between, right? Like you would have a full line and a half, and a D pair of
Mhm.
Matt Rempe's,
Yeah.
right? You can't skate all that well. You don't really have a whole bunch of touch around the net, but you bring a whole nother element. Now we don't have room for those guys. Your fourth line is still 3 skill guys.
Yeah.
Your third D pair is still guys that move the puck and retrieve pucks. It's insane. And Reece, you saying exponentially? Perfectly worded.
That's why I am so excited to see best on best hockey finally coming back next season. We like when was the last? Is the World Cup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
26. I mean, I think I have a jersey right there, the World Cup
Yeah.
jersey.
Is that
I
Price?
think it's 2016. Yeah, it might be Price.
Not a big
It
deal.
might be Price.
It might be Price. Believe
It
it or
does.
not.
It does suck that this Four Nations is only 4 nations. Obviously,
Yeah.
like it is too bad that we don't get to see like Draisaitl or Pasternak in this tournament at all. And Pasternak has been fairly vocal about like not being happy about that.
Yeah,
But
maybe they had a European team. Who knows?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that this is only just going to build more anticipation to those Olympics that they've already committed to. Like, I think this is just your little appetizer of like, and honestly, these are probably the 4 best teams in the world right now. But this is going to be awesome to finally see some of these guys like Patrick Kane and Jack Hughes on the same team, and Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. Like, it's going to be so sick to finally see this happen.
Those two together is actually just a cheat code. Like,
Yeah.
how do you stop those two? Like,
It's
the
gonna be
speed
incredible.
Of those two come out, just get out of the way. Sorry.
I say once the Summer Olympics starts here, I would say we start doing these we start building some squads, some NHL national team.
Well, and
I feel like
did you guys
I
see
feel like
they
that'd be pretty
named
fun.
the 6? There were 6, I think, that each team had named right now.
Yeah.
Were you guys
Did they
surprised?
advertise that? Or
Like,
I feel like that just I was strolling on Twitter
That kind
like
of just came out of nowhere.
no
it was
kidding.
right in the middle of the
And
finals.
then
I feel like
So,
there's got to be at least like 2 guys who absolutely hate each other's guts on the same team, and I'm ready for that to see them have to play together. Do they put it aside?
they put it aside.
For
Yeah,
the
they
flag
put it
on your
aside.
chest.
For them,
Oh yeah.
but that's kind of a funny dynamic to watch. 2 people who hate each other guts play together.
didn't like Taves and Perry like hate each other or something? Like there was 2 guys on like one of the 2010 Olympics teams, I think, that like hated each other, and then they ended up winning. But I don't.
Yeah, probably.
That might totally be false.
I think
like,
most people hate Corey Perry.
I mean, there's grudges. There's grudges between every player, almost, right?
Yeah.
And you just put it aside, and you're playing for your country.
God, I pray to God that there is no injuries that come out of this, because if that shit happens, it's gonna be such a pain in the butt to have this happen again. Like, especially doing this mid-season, it is tough.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. There was a big one in 24.
Tavares.
Was it Stamkos? Wait, I don't
Tavares
know.
broke his leg,
Tavares?
I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
And then,
but stuff like that happens, and it's tough, and that's the whole reason why the whole international play hasn't really happened.
Yeah.
Do you guys really remember much from the 2010 Olympics, the Sidney Crosby golden goal? Do you remember much of that?
I remember the golden goal.
Because I remember watching that game live,
I remember watching.
and because the Olympics were in Vancouver, so it was a local game kind of thing, right? It was in Canada, so the country was nuts that game for Canada in that final. It was in terms of Winter Olympics, that's definitely the best moment I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think I was probably too young to.
When they played Sweden in 2014 for the gold, I think that game was at 6 a.m. or something, and whoever, I can't remember who it was, but they basically declared yeah, bars can open up at 6 a.m. for this game and can serve liquor and blah blah blah.
Really? What?
Yep.
That's awesome.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember 2014 more than 2010 at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's
2010 was
so cheap
because it was here, right? I mean, Canada was so dialed into that Olympics. I forget what his name is. The guy that does the skeleton or whatever. That ginger guy. He won gold on skeleton.
Oh,
that was an insane moment, right? It was. He was celebrating. He walked through all of downtown Vancouver drinking a beer. Like, it was a great moment for Canada.
Well, he does the amazing race now, much because of that. Yeah, if he didn't do that, you would never have known him.
100%. Like,
there it is.
He's got generational wealth because he was slamming beers. That's awesome.
Where is the next Winter Olympics? Is it Asia? Or no? Or is that France? Or,
France gets the Summer Olympics. France is yeah.
It's something like that.
This one,
Italy, I'm pretty sure.
Winter Olympics.
I have no idea. Oh yeah, I think it might be Italy.
It seems odd.
I remember the discussion because it's putting an NHL rink in there and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or Olympic size rink.
It is Italia.
I'm sure everybody going would absolutely love to be in Italy. It's so beautiful there.
Yeah, it's a vacation.
I think that's where McDavid and Draisaitl normally go in the off season.
I think Around the Ring should plan to go to Milan for the Olympics.
Boy.
Please,
maybe
I would love to go there.
Drop your money in the chat below. I'll take that. Thank you so much.
Sponsor. We're taking any sponsors.
We'll make a GoFundMe.
There we go.
Send Around the Ring to Milan. I wouldn't even watch them. I'm just sitting at a cafe somewhere drinking coffee all day long.
You think they had the hockey feed on their TVs there?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
France isn't a bad hockey team. They're in the World Cup or World Championship a lot of the time, right?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think wasn't Cristobal Huet from? Oh, maybe not. I'm thinking. Yeah, maybe I'm tripping.
Is there anything else we want to talk about in terms of hockey news or anything?
No. Again, it's all everything's died down.
Yeah,
thank God, because that 2.5 hours.
This might have been old news, but I just saw that Jesper Bonkvist signed in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He was a buyout from Columbus. I think he's 24 years old still.
Yep.
And I would not be shocked if he all of a sudden just becomes the stud, Brandon Montour type of player, in the next few years, just with Paul Maurice and the culture that they have there now. And I think it's for literally nothing, 800.
And it was Adam Boqvist and Jesper Boqvist. So both of the brothers are going to Florida.
Cool.
Yeah, he signed a 1-year deal worth $775,000.
Yeah,
that dude I know.
And that guy was a big part of that was a big part of the Seth Jones trade.
Yes.
That was the big
Aaron, wasn't it? Did Seth Jones get traded there, or he had signed?
Adam Boqvist was
traded from Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I couldn't remember. I thought for some reason that it was the Panarin trade.
No.
But
he was a big part of the Seth Jones.
Yeah. Brandon Saad was the big return on the Panarin trade.
Yeah, what a goof.
Brandon Saad, baby. That's a throwback. I don't even know what he's up to.
Seriously. In St. Louis.
I know his career ended in injury or something like that, right?
No, I think he's in St. Louis.
Is he bad?
I don't know for sure.
I know
that
he's
guy's
been
irrelevant in my head at this point.
I don't think he's an amazing, impactful player.
Yeah, he's still making $6.5 million.
Yeah, probably.
Oh man.
I think in the next coming weeks here on Around the Rinks, we'll probably have maybe an interview or a bit of a different episode coming up. We're going to start doing a little bit different content over the summer here. Well, news is kind of a little slower, a little quieter. So make sure you are subscribed on the YouTube for that and following social medias to keep up to date with stuff like that.
We should say this at the beginning of episodes.
Yeah,
probably.
maybe, but
we're new at this still.
We'll get there eventually.
We'll do it next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure you're following everything. Links are in the description as always. If there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, go ahead, or Noah can take us out.
That's pretty much it. Enjoy the weather if you're in Edmonton. See you guys next week.
Good.
Peace out.
That has been another episode of Around the Rinks, your go-to hockey podcast. We'll see you next time.